Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss my personal collecting and investing strategy for Pokemon cards. So mainly the purpose of this video is to show you guys, or at least to express my opinions on how I try to make my dollar stretch in this hobby. Since there's so many things I want to collect and I think we're all trying to make our dollar stretch. So maybe some of these points would be interesting, maybe you guys haven't considered it. And yeah, the ultimate goal for myself at least is to collect as many cards as I can for the best possible prices, so do keep that in mind. That being said, this is my personal opinions, it's not financial advice. You guys are free to do whatever you choose to do. So this isn't me telling you how to invest, it's just simply my own opinions and sort of what I'm doing. I always enjoyed videos of seeing what other people are doing, so I thought, this could be an interesting topic, seeing that there's so much price volatility with a lot of the modern alternative arts such as the Moonbryon and the Fusion Strike Gengar. So yeah, I thought it would be interesting to discuss, how would you navigate this kind of market and still collect the cards that you really want at a decently reasonable price at least. So right off the bat, these hype driven markets, I would call, my opinions here are probably not going to be super popular, but I generally would avoid these kind of huge price spikes as a huge red flag. So I would definitely avoid this myself. My ultimate goal is to collect every single chase card from all the sets in at least a PSA 9 or above. I've mentioned this before, but I think seeing these price jumps, especially for some of these Fusion Strike cards and these alt arts, is just kind of alarming. It's very reminiscent of the Japanese trainer spike that happened around 1 year ago. I was selling some of those cards for $2 to $3 and then they became like $200. Although the percent change isn't as drastic as what we see with alternate arts today, I don't think the supply of alternate arts will actually justify that kind of price point. Personally, I think it's super risky buying those kind of cards. The likelihood is there is just so many copies of Sword and Shield cards that I think, this short-term kind of increase in price won't really sustain. So one example was the Japanese trainer cards, but another example I could think of was XY Evolutions with some of the I remember the graded reverse holos being over $100, which made no sense whatsoever. Some of even the common Pikachu from XY Evolutions was going for quite a lot of money, like over $50 to $60. Super common Pikachu card. Those kind of price points, I don't know, because the risk just doesn't feel good, because these cards are so mass printed, they're not super rare, and they're not that old too. I think that's a key point. Pokemon has already been printing quite a lot in the Sword and Shield. So although those alternate arts are a bit harder to pull, yeah, I don't think the price point is justified, especially right now. Even for a raw copy, they're going for over $300 to $400 for that Gengar. Especially a couple months ago, it was only around $100. So what would I do? I've been looking at other eras of Pokemon. Since my goal is to collect every generation, I basically look for the least popular generation, and oftentimes those are the best deals. The prices are the lowest, obviously because there's not that much demand. However, I do like to not be in sync with what the market thinks should be hot or valued right now. I guess I'll describe my rationale. So these are my recent pickups. So these black and white, these are chase cards basically of some of the black and white era. So this is from Emerging Powers, I believe. So these cards were $10 a piece. $10. The pack is probably going upwards of $80. The booster box are in the thousands of dollars, and the most expensive chase cards are only $10. So I think, one lesson, I guess, is picking up cards that maybe, that you have on your radar, that, that's ultimately part of your collection goals. Maybe putting the really hot items or the really hyped items on a backseat and picking up some of the less hyped items. I think you might be a little bit better off, since, let's see these rainbow rares. So people don't really like these rainbow rares, but these are the chase cards from the Sun and Moon era. So, I had no problem paying like 10, I think some of these are $5 to $20 each, for a really minty copy of what is supposedly the most expensive and the most sought after cards, from an older generation than Sword and Shield. So I think there's definitely opportunity, especially if you're into the other eras as well. I find it hard to believe that so many collectors are only interested in Sword and Shield. The reason I say this is because I think that was just the reason I said that. It's because I think it's just the most recent set. Perhaps, it may have the most hype right now. But the thing is, when you buy into hype, you're often overpaying, or it's just a really risky play in general. So at least for me personally, as I want to collect other eras, I'm just gonna, pick what I perceive has the best value. So that's, a more rare card. So in an era like black and white, that's printed a lot less than Sword and Shield. So I think, there's rarity to it. And, although the card isn't popular, I think it's it still has a good value proposition, I think, compared to some of the more modern cards. Although I'm not going to deny that the art is really cool for the modern alt arts. I just don't think I just don't think the price point is justified. Yeah, so I guess, just to reiterate, if you have multiple collection goals, maybe start grinding away at the goal that is least hyped. So, the one that has least social media presence. Oftentimes that will have the least eyes on it. Oftentimes those will have lowest amount of people looking at it. And in turn, during auctions, they probably will go for the lowest prices just because not many people are interested in it. Yeah. And furthermore, another example is just, buying some of these prime cards. I think I bought this for around $100. This is about the price of a pack of Triumphant, probably even slightly cheaper. So I much rather buy a Pokemon card that's already graded a 9, so a super high grade, a popular Pokemon, a 14-year-old set. And this was from an era that wasn't printed super heavily just because of the low amount of people that was actually, interested in the hobby at the time. So I think a purchase like this, appears to me like much better value than something like a modern alt art. I know I'm hammering down on the alt arts quite a bit, but again, this is just, I don't know. I want to see if you guys can see my point. I just think there is value elsewhere, and it's always harder to go against the flow, go against social media or what your, I guess, idols or people you look up to are collecting. But I do think if you are interested, definitely there's some really cool cards out there for a fraction of the price. That's definitely more rare and harder to find. And it seems historically like these cards do pretty well. Like, I guess another example is the Gold Stars, one of the rarest cards in the hobby. I don't get how some of these cards are, becoming close to the same price as a modern card. This is notoriously hard to pull, 1 in 72 packs, so 2 booster boxes, and those booster boxes are so expensive, and they're almost 20 years old. So I think, Gold Stars are just on another level. So I much rather put $1,000 something into a Gold Star rather than a alternate art. But yeah, let me know if you guys disagree. One of the last sort of strategies that I want to reiterate and add more to is buying grades that are not PSA 10. Everywhere on social media, on YouTube, you see that people are posting their PSA 10s, it's great. Like, I like the label. I have 10s myself, but I think there's a lot of value outside of the 10. The 10s is so expensive, and I know I got some hate for it previously, but, if you consider a lower grade, like a, graded 9, 8, near mint 7 even, or even a raw mint copy, I think it could present a lot better value as some of the 10s out there. Sure, the 10s may hold their prices better. However, it's still subjective. Like, I can't get over the fact that a human grades it, and it's not reproducible. I'm a scientist. This is one of the biggest issues in science is, can you actually reproduce some results that you observe? And for a lot of the graded 10 cards, the biggest offenders being the vintage PSA 10 cards, I don't think, a lot of those grades are reproducible. I know my viewers that have seen my videos before know I say this a lot, but I definitely think the 9s are probably like a nice sweet spot for myself. Even the 8s are very, keep in mind like 7 is a near mint card, and that's already like a card that you can't really see any damage or anything wrong with it. Just from like a distance from even here, a 7 looks pretty good to me, honestly. So there's so many cards out there, and obviously I don't have that much money. I do want to make my dollar stretch, so hence that's why I decided that I want to collect mainly 9s. The reason I have that 10 is because I actually graded it myself. And so definitely this year, my grading strategy for the older stuff, the more vintage stuff, anything before XY, I think, or even around the XY era, I want to just buy the 9s off the bat. For more modern cards, such as Sun and Moon cards, I think I want to stick mainly to raw cards, since those are a lot easier to grade, and Sword and Shield probably being even easier to grade. The print quality for those cards, I think, like modern cards, are quite nice already, and plus most of the cards on the market were well protected right out of the pack. A lot of them were sleeved immediately into a top loader, so I think the chances for damage or a bad grade is a lot lower. However, for more vintage cards, especially these ones with a lot of holofoil, and maybe some of the WotC cards that weren't sort of printed super well. Notably, I think Fossil had a really bad print run. But those cards, I would usually, especially if it's a more expensive card, I would definitely opt in for just getting the graded 9 cards as a peace of mind. I think one interesting thing is with the vintage cards, I think the PSA 9 grades, the higher PSA grades, are kind of undervalued. Just my personal opinion, relative to the modern high grades, because I think the vintage PSA 9s are a lot harder to obtain. Those cards would have to be protected right out of the pack. They need to be preserved for so long, until they can go through the grading process. So that's another barrier. And the fact that they can receive a almost perfect score is, I think, quite difficult for a card that has over 10 years. However, I think people don't see that with the modern cards. I feel like it's so much easier to get a 10 than a vintage higher grade. So hence why I think the 9s are kind of undervalued, especially for the vintage cards. Just because, the amount that's out there is severely less than a modern 10 or a modern card, just because kids were playing with these cards back in the day. So I definitely hold a higher premium to the vintage higher grades like the 9s and the 10s. Yeah, I definitely don't hold that kind of premium with the higher grades with the modern cards. I think they're a lot easier to grade, and most of them out of the pack should get a 9 to 10 and more likely a 10. So yeah, anything older, I will buy the graded, and anything newer, I will buy just the raw copies, and I will grade it myself. I find that a lot of these Hidden Fates cards are basically perfect. Most of the ones I've seen, the centering is decent and the print quality is really good. Nothing to worry about there. But there are times where I try to buy some of the Level X cards and the EX cards, and I got burned on it. Like I got a 7, I got an 8. Definitely harder to grade, easily scratched. So I learned my lesson. I buy strategically. Ultimately, I know I want the graded forms of each card, but I think, it makes more sense for me to just buy the already graded cards for the harder to grade difficult cards, and try grading the more modern cards myself, since most of them that's on the market is already pretty mint and for the most part already packed fresh. So I think one general theme is to just go against the hype. Oftentimes drives the prices up, and I've been victim to buying what YouTubers are saying are good or are opening. But I feel like, I like those cards, but I think right now is just, I don't like it for that price. I rather buy other cards for the same amount of dollar value. Previously I didn't really sort of collect what I wanted to collect. I was influenced by hype. I'm not going to deny that. I was sort of buying what YouTubers were talking about and what a lot of people were hyped over. But I find that, it just doesn't make sense. Like, usually for most times you're gonna pay more than what the true value is. And I've seen this quite a few times now being in this hobby. Just these prices kind of come down, right after a super high spike, they usually dip down. And just knowing that it's also a modern card, like a mass printed card, anybody that goes to Walmart can basically pull that card, even like a kid. That automatically kind of deters me from buying that card right now. But yeah, that's just my opinion. It's definitely not easy going against what everyone else is doing or a lot of people are buying, in the hobby. I guess if you don't go against, what most people are doing, you're going to turn out like most people. So that's why, I'm trying to go against what most people are doing. I feel like that's where I can get some kind of competitive edge. And I know a lot of people might disagree with this, but I think there's just so many cool eras of Pokemon. Why is the majority of the hobby so interested in the latest sets? But obviously, but actually at the end of the day, just collect what you like. I like so many things, especially what I grew up with, which is right here. Super connected with these products, but one day I will want whatever is hyped today, but I don't think I'll be picking that anytime soon until the prices become a bit more reasonable. Please let me know what you guys think. This video is kind of all over the place, but I thought it would be fun to just share my opinions. And yeah, if you guys have any comments, I do really want to read it. If you agree or totally disagree with me, that's okay. One of the purpose of this channel is for discussion. Do want to connect with you guys, even if you guys do hate this kind of video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please do leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, and feel free to check out my affiliate links in the description below. Those lead to websites that I use and trust. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Peace out.